Wow, look at that. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the town hall. I'm going to adjust that just slightly. So, doing a town hall, but this time flying solo gives me a chance to talk directly to people, kind of go over some stuff that are on my mind without being interrupted by a guest. So, originally, we had planned to have Andy, our CEO, also in with me today, but he had a family thing come up, and we family first. We always say, anyways. But I felt like it was a good. I didn't want to cancel. We have a big one scheduled for next week. We're going to have all the founders on again. Going to do an end of year wrap up. As I've been writing the article for the end of the year, it's actually it's pretty stepful. We've all done this in the past 12 months since we've come on board, and I guess most people might know, right? Andy and myself, we've been attached only since about last January is when we came on board and joined Yorit. So it's a lot that's going on. It's been a crazy, like personally for myself, it's been a great year, tremendous year as getting into a new business and a new field. But from the very beginning, when you were explaining what it was that YOM had, and as we met other DePIN projects and got involved in the DePIN sphere, and I get more and more excited about what this means for the gaming industry, the industry that I've been a part of for all these years. But let me start there. So for people who don't know me, Jeff Outlaw, I'm the CXO of YOM, and CXO is Chief Experience Officer. And I just had a conversation with Yorit about why don't I take the COO role? That's really what my resume kind of leans itself towards, COO, Chief Operational Officer. And the reason why is beyond, I've spent many years running projects and organizing studios and those kinds of things, but I've always kind of also been an artist, animator, and on the side. And that creative end of things still is very strong vein in me. And when I moved to Web3 gaming out of away from VR titles, I tried to move into a more creative role. I was doing economy designs and some game design. Because I've not trained classically as a game designer, but I've worked with some great ones, so I learned from them, watching them work. So I didn't want to only ever have a operations title. I like the idea of having something that's a little more creative and involved, and that's what CXO kind of leads me to. But anyways, 24 years making games. Started off on the GameCube and PlayStation 2. Was an animator and a world builder for the first 7 years of my career, and then went into production and did, like I said, project management. I worked at EA for a time. I worked at Oculus for a time. So been on some of the big names. I shipped products for Legendary Entertainment and for Fox News, or not Fox News, Fox Media, Lego, Google, Facebook. Did a lot of projects, a lot of like over a dozen VR titles. So, and spent a good number of years also on mobile doing educational or transformational games. So anyways, moving into the Web3 space and moving into the DePIN space is probably the more important piece of it. The idea, as I'm writing up our presentation for studios about what we can deliver for game studios and the game delivery systems, is pretty tremendous. I mean, the idea that what YOM is, right? We are a DePIN, a decentralized network that allows cloud gaming to happen much, much cheaper. And when we say much cheaper, some services cost a game development studio up to $6 an hour to stream their content. We can get it down to, which is about, what was that? Work out to like 10 cents a second. I'm not going to do the math. I'm not a math surgeon. But what we get it down to is 93% lower, really about 7 cents per session, which is lower than the cost of advertising. So not every game will do this, but some independent game studios or even just hobbyists who want to put the game on our network, it can go up for free because they basically throwing an ad into the middle of the game experience will pay for the entire streaming cost. Again, I don't think no one's super jazzed about the idea of having their game experience interrupted by an advertisement, but what it means is it takes the risk out of experimenting. So, and most people know this about the gaming industry. It's a little bit of a lament that we have a lot of sequels that come out over and over and over again. The reason for this is it's a safe way for studios, if they're going to spend 3 years and a lot of money making a game, best to make a game that's already been successful, make the sequel to it, rather than try something new and have it fail, right? So to mitigate risk, they make sequels over and over again, which kind of helps stagnate the industry and create the most creative games like Katamari Damacy, I was a huge fan of, and Journey, another one. But those kind of titles are very rare, and mostly it's you don't get a huge audience for those. And What we're able to do with a really inexpensive way to host a game on the cloud is open up that creative outlet for all these studios that want to try and experiment. Well, it's not going to cost them anything but development time, and but to get it out to anybody, it's free to get it out. If you look at and this is going to be part of our end of year announcement, the Medium article, and all that. If you look at the top 100 games from Steam and their adoption rate, right, the first 5 games have this massive, user base, but the tail drops off real precipitously. It's a very long tail. It's a really steep curve, and all these great games, the games from number 11 on out to 100, their adoption rate is really low. What we're saying is, with our network, get those games up on any URL or pump them out through Telegram, and you'll see the user base, soar, because it's just very easy to spread games out when you have it on cloud network. The type of cloud network that we're building. Again, I think you're going to find not all cloud networks are going to be equal. We know NVIDIA has theirs, and there are other ones out there as well. Google Stadia tried to do theirs as well. They have a pinch point of, join our service, pay our subscription to be a member of our service, and then you can play the games that we have here. And our model is not that. Our model is take your game, put it up on any URL, or put it through Telegram, and let it spread far and wide to anybody who's got internet connection. So it's a really, really important piece, a big change to the way the games are delivered to the end users. And again, the information that's going to be included in the article that we're preparing, but most people are maybe a little bit surprised to find out that the cloud gaming sector within the gaming industry currently is a $5 billion segment of what I actually don't know the current 140 billion. But anyway, it's a projection for the entire market is to go up to 535 billion by 2030. And the segment that is a cloud gaming segment should be expanding up to 29 billion. So it's a year-on-year compound annual growth rate of 46%. It's the biggest section of gaming industry that's growing, cloud gaming. And again, we just our network will be a part of it, and probably in our minds be the best part of it. So doing this broadcast today to talk a little bit about, we've got a lot of new people who have found us in the past month. We've partnered up with Peak, and most people are familiar with the idea that we've partnered with Peak, and they're doing extremely well. I am, by the way, a huge fan of their founders' Twitter. I followed their Twitter, Peak's Twitter, but I also follow their founders' Twitter. His, if you don't know Leo, a tremendous guy. His personal Twitter account is worth following as well. The guy, he says a lot of smart things about what's going to happen with the machine economy. And how Peak is leading the way. Anyways, so we partnered with them. We're very excited. We're very close to them. We've met them face to face, like every conference since I went to Consensus. And they put us up on stage in Singapore. They're going to help us really promote ourselves, and when we make our token go over to the Peak ecosystem, that's also going to be a big move for us as well. But in just the first month of really, they did some campaigns. Our social media channels have all skyrocketed. So our Twitter account grew like 96% month on month. Our Discord 89% month on month. Our Telegram up 162% month on month, which is massive, right? And that's great. We want the social media interaction. It's good to have all these new people in our community. That's the reason why I'm kind of walking through the basics of YOM in this broadcast, so people who are new can find out what it is that we do. But then the application that, we have app.yom.oo, which is it's our way to help promote ourselves to the community. We offer reputation points to people who are helping us spread the word about YOM. Those reputation points are called YRX. They, as you amass those, they help your node when you decide to operate a node. They'll help you in our DAO when the DAO is stood up. And generally, we'll be giving rewards out to people who have a high YRX score, special deals we'll work out with partners and those kinds of things. Anyways, the use of that application has also gone up 34% month on month. So it's not just that we're getting attention from people who are seeing us on our socials. They're actually using our products, which is, again, a great metric to pass around. And all of this due to our partnership with Peak. So can't say enough good things about them, not just because they're bringing us eyeballs, also because we share their vision with where the technology is going to go. Actually, I guess I'm just going to leave it right there. let me talk a little bit about the long-term vision of what our DePIN does. And I'm going to try to stop squirming in my seat so much because I'm excited. It gets me excited when I start talking about this stuff. And actually, let me first open up the chat real quick. Let's see if we've got questions. Here we go. Yeah, let's stuff and go. I agree. What's the measured latency so far between US and the Amsterdam node? All right, so it's a good question. Zettertex. Let me talk to that. Let me talk about first this grand vision. I'll come back to that question. I'll make sure I answer that. Look at all this dust. All right, so we have a network built that allows you to use your gaming GPU as a node on our network, and we pay those people who are operating our network, through their game GPUs or their gaming rigs. We pay them for the amount of game hours that they cycle through their machine. We link all these gaming machines together in one network, and then studios that want to put their game out onto this network, they pay us a fee to get onboarded. And we take that fee and purchase YOM tokens, and then we pay those YOM tokens to the people who are running the nodes. So a couple of things about our DePIN and why we're excited by it. First, this is the best way to share games peer-to-peer in a cloud. Right now, the traditional cloud model, people are putting their executables up on a central server, like an Amazon server someplace, and they're trying to broadcast out from those central servers. So a couple of problems with this. Central server is expensive to run. They're massive buildings. Well, they're expensive to run. They've got massive buildings. They've got air conditioning costs and construction costs and all those kinds of things. There aren't as many of them as are needed in the current marketplace for GPU cycles. As AI starts sucking up all the GPU cycles away from all these massive databases, all these central servers, it's driving the cost of GPU cycles up higher. So it's already much more expensive to run a game in the cloud from a central server. It's only going to get more expensive as AI starts competing for those GPU cycles. But then ultimately, inside of a central server, when you're streaming a game, you need access to a GPU, obviously. Also need access to memory because you're loading in, textures and those kinds of things, and some storage. You also need access to the sound capabilities of the system. In a central server, those systems can be broken apart and put in different places in the massive, mile-long complex. So they got to assemble that whole broadcast and then find the way through the firewall out to the end user, out to the internet. What we discovered is that causes it can cause lag, or at least it causes the broadcast signal to not reach as far out as what we can do when we do a peer-to-peer share. So Zentrix is asking the question, like, what's the measured latency so far between the US and the Amsterdam node? What he's speaking of there is we have a node running in our test network is based out of Amsterdam. We have a node running on a gaming PC at one of our developers' homes in Amsterdam. We have a simple test game. It's built in Unreal, running inside a Telegram and a website. For testing purposes, it's not open to everybody yet because we just don't have the capabilities yet to handle a huge surge of users right now. That's the next step. Anyways, I played that game here from South Carolina, where I'm living, off that node in Amsterdam, off of his computer, direct, peer-to-peer connection. The latency was somewhere it's fluctuated between 30 milliseconds and 50 milliseconds. So I played a third-person shooter, and I had the highest score. That's still not as fast as we'd like it to be. We'd like it to be under 30 all the time. But again, in the final version of this, we won't be running. Me in the States, I'll be running off a node somewhere like up in New York. I won't have to go all the way out to Amsterdam. But the idea that we can, when that same game was put on an Amazon server it was in Ireland, because that's the closest Amazon server, I think, to Amsterdam. We had it there when I was in New York at a conference, and I tried to run the game. And it was unplayable. So when I tested it here in South Carolina, it was surprising to all of us that it was as good as it was, under 50 milliseconds. But and I hope I'm getting that stat right. But again, it ran great. And again, what we determined is that getting outside of a central server just causes too much latency. And it diminishes the distance you can broadcast from. So where was I? So why is this important? All right. So I've said already that you can bring the cost down to below the cost of advertising. You can reach any device that's got access to the internet, including mobile. Like, one of the things that we offer that I don't think any of the DePIN gaming DePIN offers is the quick ability for a company that has a game that's got, say, keyboard controls, right, for the mapping. We provide the tools that make it very fast to remap to a mobile device or touchscreen device. So you can take your first-person, third-person shooter game and put it on and have some people playing on the computer while other people playing the phone off the same. There's going to be some differences there, but you can still get that game up and running in about an afternoon and get it live on a URL. So our system is just more complete and better made for 3D gaming, but cloud gaming. But the upside of all this is it doesn't stop with games, right? What we envision is over time the internet is going to go to 3D. I spent years inside of VR building VR titles, and as much as I love my Quest, I love my Quest 2. I was sitting over there, and I love getting into VR, into my headset. I don't do it very often, and the reason for this, and this is something that we've talked about, those of us who have worked in VR in the past have talked about many times, is there's a social aspect to the idea of putting on a headset. If I've got a family or if I got some friends over, I can play a game on a TV and people can watch and share and everything. But when I'm on a headset like that, unless you've hooked it up to the TV, you're really isolating yourself from everybody in the household. And there's a hesitation to playing VR, and this is it's going to cause a hesitation to mass adoption. So when we talk about the 3D internet, what I've always said is, when we talk about the metaverse, because I was part of the metaverse craze and have been, still looking forward to that moment when it really becomes a thing that we really want to do, not something that we're forced to do. The step to get there, it seems like in the past, that metaverse craze that we went through 2 years ago, so many places were trying to jump right from the idea of nothing all the way to VR headsets and tactile touch vests and those kinds of things, and they skipped those important steps between. If that's step 1 and that's step 12, they skipped all this from the middle. The idea that where is everybody right now? Well, they're on their computers, on a flat monitor. Okay, where else? That they're in web browsers. They are on the internet. Okay, so you've got to put 3D content, the metaverse, where people currently are. Currently, they're in a web browser and they're on the internet on a flat screen. So what we are able to do with a DePIN network that you can't do from a cloud is stream an entire 3D world through a web browser on the internet to anybody who's got a screen. Our technology already allows for a 3D world to move a player and their avatar from one 3D world on one URL to a different 3D world on another URL. The use case for this is something like Coca-Cola owns Sante Water. They own Coca-Cola as a brand. So they got, let's say, those two brands. If they want you to be a Coca-Cola character on the Coca-Cola 3D world on the Coca-Cola.com website, but then want you to walk over to something much better for you anyways, which is water, they can just open up a door and you walk from Coca-Cola.com to Desante.com, but you don't ever leave the 3D space. You're still the same character you were before. That whole thing is the starting point to what the metaverse will end up being before it goes into VR. And again, VR I think is going to be a long way away because you have to push people into technology that's just harder to adopt funding wise and then socially adopt. It's just not there yet. But it's a shame. I don't say anything bad about VR. I love my VR, but there's still little steps to make. And you have to, when you think of game design, you have to think of the social impacts or the play pattern, I guess, of the end user. Right now, the play pattern for the end users are they're on the internet on a screen. It's also the reason why we're very bullish about this, because so I've got a 13-year-old son. He doesn't watch TV really to speak of, doesn't go to the movies to speak of. He games and he watches YouTube, right? Most of the brands have caught on to the idea that generation that's coming up, they can't find them with normal TV commercials and product placement in movies. So what they're looking at is product placement in video games and then 3D worlds. And like what Fortnite and Roblox have both done is they've gone after these brands to say, hey, advertise, make a world on our or put products in our world, and that'll be the way to reach these consumers. And I have a general aversion to marketing, and my kids are kind of taught to avoid the thing with an orange wrapper, because the orange wrapper is trying to catch your eye and say something you don't need. But still a fact. I mean, marketing has to happen. So anyways, those brands are all reaching out through 3D worlds. Now, what we're saying to them is the next step after putting product placement inside of games and building a world in Roblox, which kind of looks as good as Roblox can make it look, You can now do that inside of an Unreal world, world built inside of Unreal, which is an amazing engine, and then put it up on your company website. And then if you want to make it a game, it could be a game. If you want to make it a shopping experience, it could be that. But if you gamify it and you offer rewards, those rewards can translate into a rebate code on the same website that people are already on, and they can make a purchase without having to leave the 3D world again. The other aspects of what we offer when you can stream interactive content as easily as the internet currently streams one-way video, right? What we compare ourselves to is, if you have seen, and you probably have, an article that explains the game review article and has a video of the game playing, in the article, so you can click on play and you watch the game being played by somebody in the article as you read about it. What we're offering is, because you can embed the game on any URL, you can embed that game inside that article or a sample level, if that's what the game designer prefers to do. So what we're saying is that one-way stream of video we have on any website, including Amazon product websites, that can now be a two-way stream. So think of an Amazon, a product you want to buy on Amazon, but you don't know dimension-wise if it's going to fit in your space or whatever. You can now control the camera, zoom in and out, break the model apart, take a look at what's on the inside of it, all on Amazon site, because we can stream a two-way, an interactive video stream or interactive stream to any URL. Again, all this stuff is powerful stuff, and not seeing it done with any kind of, not only not seeing it done, not even seeing it suggested from any other gaming DePIN that we've examined. Whew. I've gone on for a little bit. That's 22 minutes so far. I do have a tendency to talk, so let me go quickly to what comes next for us, because I don't want, and then we'll jump into if there are any more questions. I'm not seeing too many more questions, but if you want some questions answered, please feel free to jump in and add them here. I think these are coming through both through X and through YouTube. They come right to my restream question feed, which is great. So what comes next? Next week, again, we're going to have the founders on. We'll do a whole end of year review. We'll go through everything we've accomplished so far, and we'll unveil the roadmap and the article about where the roadmap came from. Some of the bigger things that are going to happen in the next year for us, and it looks amazing. I would say since October, and this probably doesn't hurt that the bull run kind of took off too. We've just had everything ramp up on the business side for us, but we're in the process now of getting that single node in Amsterdam that's running. We're preparing other copies of those nodes and putting them in the hands of some people from our community who've requested to be testers. So we had over 100 people request to be a tester, and we filtered those into 3 ways. We're going to be filtering them into 3 ways. How much time node will be available? SR. In how much time will it be available? Okay, I'll make sure I touch that. So the plan is to get 3 waves of these testers out. So the first wave will be 12 nodes in the hands of 12 different people, and they're in various regions. We've got some in Europe, some in South America, some in the United States, and some in Asia. So we're going to get those 12 nodes all operating. Now, the criteria for those first 12 was, let's kind of keep the machines as similar as possible. Gaming rigs, and they've got an NVIDIA 40, most of them have like a 4060, 4070, 4090, some have a 3060. But very few. But basically, all the games are on the same graphics card from NVIDIA, and we want to test those out and get that first 12 node network up and running, and we'll put our test game on that. The same one I played. Actually, we're doing some upgrades to it, but the same one I played, off the node in Amsterdam, here to South Carolina. So once those 12 are stable, we've got a decision to make at that point. We could take and open up the network to public, which would mean we may overload some of those nodes at times, but maybe not. But it would be a good show that because it's interesting, we've had more than a few tech people come to us and say, you can't do what you're doing because Google tried it and and it didn't work for them, and NVIDIA's GeForce Now, it struggles on a Friday night. So, but when we go into a deeper dive with them and walk them through exactly what it is that we're building, we've converted more than a few very, very well-versed tech people to understand what we're doing. We've got better optimization than it's our optimization is better than because we built it ourselves better than what's commercially available, and we're just building a smarter system. Anyways, that'll be the first wave of the alpha test. The second wave of the test would be adding in 12 more machines, so we'll double in size. But these machines will not all have NVIDIA cards. We'll have some AMD cards and some others, just to test out like what happens when we sell to retail game rig owners who don't have the same system as what we currently, what we consider to be the surefire ones. So we'll test that out. And then after that 12, we'll double again, add another 24, and these will be even more variety of machines, some workstations, some mining machines, those kinds of things. Again, every machine needs to have a sound card, so sometimes the mining machines don't work. And then also delegated machines. So working with our partners at io.net, I talked to Tasa last week. They'll either come in wave 2 or wave 3. But testing out what it means to have delegated nodes and how well they integrate with the retail node system. This whole thing, it could mean that we go live with our first games in mid to late January, or it could mean that we are sometime in February before we go live with the full network. It's important to us to do it right, but it's important for us to get it out there fast, because we're kind of tired of hearing you can't really do that, because we know we are doing it. And I've played the game and I've got the highest score. So so we kind of want to get past that hump. That opens up a lot of doors for us, obviously. If we do it right, we're timing our that alpha network going live at the same time as we make the node sale available. What we're probably likely to do is sell the delegated licenses first as we prepare more hardware, and then sell hardware after that. The question of how much time nodes will be available. If you're talking about the hardware, we're probably talking about the middle to end of Q2 next year. If you're talking about the licenses that you delegate to services, that could be as early as January, February of next year. So that's the timetable that we're kind of looking at. Anyways, if we do this right, we time the node sale with the network going live, with the token launch, and everything is just, I expect the first 3 months of next year to just be bonkers insane. I got my ticket to go to ETH Denver. That's happened in February. I very much expect I'll be at GDC in March. That's in San Francisco when that happens. To approach more studios. Honestly, getting this into studios, getting studios on board with what we're offering has been some of the easiest sales I've ever done. And I used to sell shoes. So, it's pretty easy. Every studio that sees this recognizes that, this is a great way for me to not just distribute my game, but get my game to go viral, right? I put it on Telegram. People are passing it friend to friend. And before you know it, I've got, hundreds of thousands of people playing my game that no one on Steam ever found because they're too busy playing one of the top 5 games. And all this also, I should kind of touch on, our system isn't a replacement for Steam or Epic Store. We're actually an add-on. So the large games, we call it top of funnel, right? So large games who want to attract a gaming audience, they will put together a sample level. We used to do this in the past when you buy PC or Gamer magazine, and it would come with a CD-ROM inside a magazine, and you'd have like a sample level. So you'd see the day where you go to Steam and you say, download the game or play the sample. They play the sample off of our cloud and decide, this is a really fun game. I think I will download the whole thing and install it. But there's friction every time that I know that I've only got so much hard drive space on my machine. So do I really want to spend download this new game, and do I have to delete an old game if I do that? With our system, we eliminate that friction, right? You don't have to decide whether or not you're going to download it before you've played it. What have I not touched on? We have there's going to be the node article. So explaining our nodes is not an easy task, and we've done a number of times on some of the other broadcasts. We had a whole AMA about how the node operates, and I invite you to watch that again if you haven't seen it. It's got our CTO, and it has one of our engineers, Dirk, in the town hall. But in the short version of it, just to say, it's a device that is it's hard drive with a specialized version of Linux installed on it, and it's a boot drive. So what people with gaming rigs will do when they want to operate in node mode is they boot off of this drive. And the reason for this is threefold, really. It's a security aspect of it, because this specialized hard drive will be encrypted and locked. So game data is secured. Anybody who owns a node can't really get into the node because it's locked up, right? And this is important for game developers to know that their data is safe. Secondly, we don't install any software onto the home gaming rig because that's invasive. We wouldn't do that. People who have gaming rigs, they're rightly protective of their rigs, and they should be. So we don't want to install anything on their computers. So instead, this makes it so we don't have to, right? Because you're operating off of a very separate drive. And then also, we're not asking them to partition off 2 terabytes of their hard drive to give to us. This hard drive that we ship has all the storage it needs to be a node. And then speed-wise, most people run Windows, and anyone who knows Windows knows that it's bloated. When you operate off a Linux-based system, each computer can run, depending on your graphics card, up to 8 concurrent streams. So you have a small end graphics card, you can run, like on my 2060 laptop, I ran 2 streams. But if you get up a 4090, you can run 8 streams, and you get paid by as many streams as you can operate, right? As many sessions as you host. So the more streams you have, it's obviously better for you. Yeah, it will. So, all right, question came up. Will YOM also be improved in the world of AR? We expect that it will. I mean, again, if you're going to be able to stream 3D content through our network faster than you can through a central server, it's incumbent on the AR world to take a look at our network too and host their content on our network. We're not in any direct talks with anybody building an AR. We know we have some companies out there in the Web3 space who are taking a stab at it. We'd be happy to help them too. We just haven't spoken to any directly yet, but certainly not. We've already done VR, so AR is right there with it. We did a VR test and it worked. It just means it doubles up the hardware. So I think it's where you would take 2 streams off of any 2060 card, you can only run 1 stream of VR because it takes up two streams at the same time. Where hardware is limited in the actual Google's due to space. Okay. So question is, where will YOM also be improved in the world of AR where hardware is limited in the actual goggles due to space? Yeah. Again, that's exactly it. So you stream the line in. Now, our preliminary tests are saying that it's faster and better if you have an Ethernet cable than if you're using Wi-Fi, because the Wi-Fi will be a limiter to how fast you can stream. We optimize, again, as far as we know, better than anybody else. But still, Wi-Fi is better. So then maybe we'll have to run some tests to find out how much broadcasting from Wi-Fi to goggles will run smoothly. But again, it's still going to be better than being from a central server. Whether it's better than being installed on the device itself, probably not. I mean, probably the device itself is going to be faster, but then you'll be limited in the data space you can hold on to. Hope that answers your questions here, Jax. Coming to the halfway mark, or half an hour mark, I actually want to kind of try to keep these down to about 40 minutes. It's just better for YouTube, but people just generally will click on a 40-minute video. They don't always click on a 1 hour long video because they don't have that kind of time. I think I've covered everything. The end of year article and discussion. Next week it will be again, the 4 of us. That will probably go an hour, honestly, because there'll be more of us on the call. But there's lots to talk about in the end of year a wrap up kind of discussion. This has been fun for me. I like the idea of not getting interrupted. I think I covered every area that I wanted to in this quick town hall, this abbreviated town hall, because again, family matters. I will ask you one last point. Next year, starting in January, because it's been hard to get people in the last couple of months. I had one person who actually, before Andy was going to be on this one, it was going to be somebody else, but they actually asked to move to January. And really, January and February looks like it's going to be packed. They've got so many people lined up, and some of them are from some big brand names that you're going to know that are outside of the Web3 space. I'll just say it that way. I'm excited to talk to these people. For me, some of them for the first time. But they get excited when they find out what this means for the gaming industry to have cloud gaming that works, and challenges the traditional cloud gaming model. We all kind of wanted Google Stadia to work. We all really want GeForce Now to work because it just makes it easier for the gaming industry to expand. I've got friends. I said this last week. I've got friends in the gaming industry, longtime friends who are out of work because the industry is contracting. The traditional gaming the industry is contracting, and I want that industry to be healthy again. And I want not just expansion into Web3, but just the traditional gaming space to be healthy again. And I think what we offer is a model that allows for that to happen. It's a better way to get games out into the hands of more people, because the majority of the world, when they game, they game on their mobile devices, or they're locked out of the high-end games because their hardware doesn't support it. So we're saying play our games, and you won't need that heavy-ended hardware, that kinds of hardware. All right, I'm going to end it there. It's been great. Thanks so much, everybody, for attending. I appreciate your patronage. We always do. Happy to take any more questions in our. One last question. the central exchange question. So people always ask, like, when's a token going to get on the central exchange? That's going to happen in conjunction with the peak, not at the same time as the peak migration. I don't think it could. Anyways, we're working with Peak to make sure that happens. This is something that they're obviously tied into a number of exchanges. When they set up their pairing, they're going to want a lot of their pairs to live on central exchanges as well. So I don't have a timetable. I wouldn't promise a date, but I would say is that Peak is happy to be talking to us about this and helping us make this happen. So stay tuned, I guess I'll say it that way. And I'm not going to tell you to invest. I'm glad to see people might be interested in it, but I'm not going to give you financial advice and tell you what to do with your money. But I'm happy about what we're building. And I would say invest in the community, right? Invest in being a member of, following along with us and helping us spread our message for the greater good of the gaming community. I'll end on this philosophical note. Wealth comes in many different forms, right? Everyone concentrates on the financial wealth, but there's wealth in relationships. There's wealth in spirituality. There's wealth in knowledge and abilities. You can have wealth in peace of mind, right? You balance your search for wealth amongst all those different areas that you can be wealthy in. Relationships, if I didn't say that, balance your search for wealth. Don't make it all about financial wealth, because being unbalanced is just not a good place to be. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. We'll talk again soon. It's been a pleasure. And we'll find you on Twitter, Discord, and Telegram. Check out our socials. Again, www.yom.oo. Cheers.